welcome to Virtual Concert Hall's live music channel. My name is Chris Au, and I have with me the co-founder of Virtual Concert Halls, Dr. Anna Ouspenskaya.
Thank you. I'm very anxious to start the new journey today.
Yeah, the new journey of Beethoven Symphony No. 3. How exciting is that? It's really an awesome symphony, and I can't wait to dive into it. This is part one of the documentary of Beethoven Symphony No. 3, written and narrated by none other than our legendary Lawrence Rapchak, created by New Media Productions Worldwide and Virtual Concert Halls in collaboration, and produced by the Architects of Music.
And this is an incredible collaboration, which has been made possible because it's our shared passion to be connecting musicians and audiences in real-time musical performances and live programs like this one from around the entire globe.
It's amazing to take the big step back and view the progress of music during the 19th century. When you consider the early 1800s, the first Viennese school with Beethoven as the driving force, and compare it with the early 20th century and the second Viennese school led by Arnold Schoenberg, the contrast, as you would imagine, is startling. We all know Beethoven, the true voice of early Romanticism. And Schoenberg, the voice of modernism and dissonance. If some of you suspect a little foul play on my part, yes, you're right. The first excerpt was Schoenberg, and the second was Beethoven from his Third Symphony, which we will now examine in detail. And Schoenberg, of course, would go on to write much more complicated music from what you heard there. But it's Beethoven now who would begin his ascent as the single most powerful, titanic, visionary musical force of the day, perhaps of all time. This concept of Romanticism during Beethoven's time, this is very central, and it's not just the I'm in a romantic mood sort of thing. This was a major cultural movement that bridged the 18th and 19th centuries and swept European society along with it. During the Age of Enlightenment, as you will recall, the role of music in society was basically as entertainment for the royalty. Music as an artist's own personal expression or a statement. That's just not how things were done. Haydn, after all, was forced to sit at the table with the servants and groundskeepers and whatnot during his time at the Esterhazy Palace. But the role of the artist was now changing in this new age of Romanticism. The Swiss philosopher Rousseau claimed that man must free himself from the constraints of society and get in touch with his inner self. Feelings and emotions and individual expression were now regarded as superior to reason and logic. So Beethoven basically accepted his oncoming deafness. It empowered him to embark on his new path. He's an artist charged with a lofty, important mission in life, and this was all entirely new. Now here is some exciting music for you to listen to. And this is not music by Beethoven, but music of Etienne Méhul, a French composer of the day whose big public choral works were favorites in revolutionary France. This work, his Song of Departure, was actually preferred to La Marseillaise by Napoleon himself. And this great revolutionary spirit in France and the rise of Napoleon as the great liberator sent shockwaves to the crowned heads of the Habsburg Empire, but waves of excitement to the people with hope for a new era of peace, justice, and brotherhood. And the rise of public musical works in France was huge. Music could now be used as a social statement to lift and inspire the masses. I always thought that those big, massive choral orchestral works by Hector Berlioz were something that he just dreamed up, when in fact there were hundreds of works written on this grand scale during this period. Here is one of those works by Berlioz written some years after Beethoven's death. It was a government commission to celebrate the installation of the famous July column in the Place de la Bastille. So Beethoven now explores how this rousing, heroic idiom might propel symphonic music beyond its technical concert hall limitations into something more all-encompassing and perhaps even spiritual in nature. Now talk about architecture. Beethoven now turns to the sonata form with its built-in potential for drama, for musical conflict in the development section, which then resolves in the recapitulation. The sonata form now proves to be Beethoven's ideal blueprint for expanding the emotional power and the scope of his music because it provides such a solid technical framework to contain and control all of it. So now, starting right at the top, the standard formality, as we've seen, of beginning a symphony with a slow, majestic introduction, as we saw in Beethoven's first two symphonies. How would this new path deal with this formality? Well, how about this? There it is, problem solved. And those two thunderbolts from the full orchestra leave no doubt as to the dynamic power of Beethoven's new path. The official formula for beginning a symphony with a slow, majestic introduction has just been swept away. But beyond their shock effect, I feel that these two chords function in a very unique and conceptual way. If they are now really the introduction to this symphony, they should preview or they should summarize in advance the first movement in some way. And they do. They define both the harmony and the rhythm, the natural state of the music, its essence. Here. There is the basic harmonic cell of this movement, an E-flat major triad with all of its upward and downward extensions and whatnot. And much of the thematic material of this movement will derive from this simple E-flat triad. That is the harmonic basis of this movement. Then there is the rhythmic foundation of the movement, its tempo, its speed as it moves through time. And it's established by these two precisely equidistant chords, like huge rhythmic markers in a basic, brisk triple meter. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that's everything that you need there. The harmony, the vertical organization of the triad, and the rhythm, the horizontal organization of time, the music's meter. 1, 2, 2. So again, these two chords represent the natural state of the music within its own universe, or its stability. And we will soon see just how long the harmony and the rhythm remain stable. As I mentioned with the Second Symphony of Beethoven, I absolutely believe that his greatest works function on an abstract, ephemeral level that parallels the forces of nature in a way. And I'm not referring to the chirping birdies and the thunderstorms from the Sixth Symphony. So we will see now where things lead. As we continue, and you hear what just happened there. The main theme begins with the most fundamental or elemental material, a basic E-flat major triad in the cello with this lower extension, this, but at the slightest diversion from this triad, this, two things happen immediately. The harmony is destabilized by this note, and immediately the first violins are triggered. It's like a natural reaction with this breathless rhythmic figure. It's an irregular palpitation. It's an aberration of the normal rhythm pattern. If we had this, 1, 2, 3, but it isn't. Beethoven writes it on the offbeat, so it's like 1, to produce this odd and intense effect. So both the harmony and the rhythm have subtly been destabilized. The natural function of these elements is off. But let's see how Beethoven deals with it. And you see how the creator of this musical universe has resolved this brief disturbance and restored order. As perfect a resolution as you could possibly imagine. And this is only the first of the many examples of this process of destabilization and resolution that we will encounter.
Whoa, here we go.
Ta-da!
Yeah, we haven't even gotten that far yet. I think we've done the first 8 measures. This feels like a masterclass with like an esteemed professor who talks a lot about the first thing, but it's an explanation of what else there is that's going to happen in the future.
Exactly. And the stunning thing at the very beginning of this particular film about the Beethoven's Third Symphony is the final, well anticipated and questioned and whatever you had in mind. Where is Maestro? So Maestro Lawrence Rabchak makes his center stage appearance.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting too because we haven't seen him for ever, and this is the first time we see him, and it is in the Eroica that we see Larry Rabchak. It's almost kind of like a big reveal, and I like both, but it's interesting just to hear him at times too instead of having to see him, and it's wonderful. I think also what's cool about this is it feels like it's a more in-person lecture now. It feels like there's a little bit more closeness.
Right, and I plan to ask Lawrence Rabchak, why did he decide to make an in-person appearance in the Third Symphony, not the first, not second, not fourth, and not ninth, by the way. It's in the Third Symphony, where it's filmed with him being personally present in there. And of course, the film has a lot of references and visuals which take us out of that studio where he recorded the narration. But he is there. He's a third one on our show.
Well,
or the first one.
It's amazing. And I want to talk about something he said. I mean, he said a lot of things, I think, which is very incredible about introduction. It's funny how even though the symphony doesn't have an introduction, his lecture does have an introduction. Because he talks a lot about the role of the artist changing from being sort of similar to a servant, but maybe a little bit more elevated depending on how much the aristocrat really likes the musician. And also something that the idea of feelings and emotions being somewhat superior to logic and reason, which was sort of probably reigned more supreme in the classical era, as opposed to now we're entering to that sort of forefront of the romantic era. And I have a sort of something, it sparked in my brain that I think our modern age is quite obsessed with the logic and reason, quite obsessed with that as being primal in deciding what technology does, what technology it serves in society. And I wonder if there's a romantic era that's coming soon, and that we're going to enter into a second
the Renaissance
romantic
of romanticism.
Yeah, bring it back, and all we do is talk about how we're suffering, and there's so much that our emotions are so important, and it's man against nature. And I don't know, for better or for worse, this could be an interesting idea to discuss.
That's very true. And both the symphony is striking to me and Larry Repchak's take on it and the way he constructs his narrative is
Yeah.
striking. I loved that moment in the film where how do you solve the problem of the new role and all the what he said before that, and then the screech, the symphony's first page of the full score shows up, and then boom,
Yeah.
problem solved.
Lightning bolt. It's just
Lightning bolt.
this.
Ta-da! You
Yeah.
just
How
walk
do
in and
I
do it.
solve this? Just pew. Yeah.
That's right.
And so interesting too because it's as he discusses, we just hear a chord, or we just if you're an audience member hearing this for the first time, you're expecting some slow introduction. All right, and then this is it. It just goes right into it. It's like a lightning bolt. And so I can imagine someone sort of sitting down, there's a glass of wine in his hand, and he's very
Boom!
relaxed. And suddenly, yeah, exactly. It's like you're frightened out of
What
your
the heck?
seat. Yeah. And then the cellos come over and like, oh, wow, what happened there? You're looking around to see if everybody else has spilled their wine as well. Probably they have. It also, in a way, it's very Beethoven-esque because it's sort of like, hey, wake up. It's time to go, and I can imagine he's premiered two of his symphonies, and every time he premieres it, he knows that the people are still chatting behind him, like the audience is still sort of, chatting, oh yeah, blah blah blah, all the little political business that they talk about. And in this symphony, he's like, no, I don't want anyone to talk. I want people to just be scared out of their seats and to
Yeah,
listen to what
Beethoven is not negotiating the role of the creator or artist not in that symphony. There's
no,
no
it's like
negotiation.
it's me, hello.
Yeah, now let's have a real talk.
Like I feel like he's the antithesis of a people pleaser. He is basically this. Hey, I'm here. Let's go. And I really admire that because I think that's a real mark of someone who kind of has that confidence, but also, I mean, one could say arrogance too, or pride, but also a self-assurance that is really refreshing, I think, in our time.
And I think in Beethoven's, I don't know, I'm not sensing any snobbishness or any sense of superiority. In Beethoven in particular, I'm sensing just pure vulnerability.
Yeah.
It's just, he comes with no skin whatsoever and just gives away everything he's got.
Yeah. And I think that's very captivating because I mean, I think as a performer, I find that we discussed the Beethoven 8th Symphony, how everything, all your chickens, all your eggs have to be lined up in the perfect, the interpretation, the composition, everything has to be perfect in order for you to actually have a transcendental performance of the piece. But I also feel like what you said about vulnerability is really important, especially if you're doing a more of a solo recital or something where you're almost having to bare yourself in front of the audience and say, this is what it is. Of course, this takes a different form. This is like that kind of vulnerability of like, but it's very, very interesting. And I'll say this one thing too, because it relates to structure. And we've been discussing structure for a while. I think structure is important because it gives order to the chaos, because chaos is probably in our hearts, in our minds, in the world we see. But without that structure of containment, it's sort of like words that are just spilled everywhere. We need a binder to bind the book together to make sure that you can actually read the book. In the same way, all these ideas are flowing everywhere. We need a structure, and sonata form is a structure that he uses to bind all the ideas together. And I think that's sort of what makes actually his music so compelling too, because if all these ideas just kept flowing like a fantasy in a way, and fantasies can be enthralling and captivating, but they also have a kind of a structure too, even if it's a bit more loose. Yet a sonata form is like, kind of what to expect in a way, but it's solid, and therefore he can just take the horses and go. And I've been inspired by that, and so therefore when you see the horses running, it's sort of there's this freedom and this joy.
And the energy, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that beginning, it's a classic study page for composers and performers and whoever is interested in being just taking a role of co-creator of music, not just a listener and consumer of it, but to have some active role in the process of music making. So that page is something any music student studies in school and all that. The opening of that symphony, and it's pretty remarkable how, and I like how Larry points out that this beginning has the seed, the atom, or the cell of the entire symphony, not just the first
Yeah.
movement. And we'll see that how it keeps reminding us that red thread from the beginning to the end of the story. It's the same character, the one which comes with a complete vulnerable lightning bolt strike of the first chords, and it also carries the harmonic cell and rhythmic cell, and summarizes basically the entire seed of the idea. But the interesting thing, which I expected that Larry would point out, but he didn't for some reason, and I'm curious to find out why, it's the fact that the rhythm gets revealed only in the third measure of the symphony. We all feel it in retrospect, like this chomp, chomp, was premeditated. The appearance of the cello theme in the three, sort of with a little bit of a dancey swing to it. But the funniest thing is, once you heard it, you can't unhear it. Once you heard that symphony once, you know how that theme is coming. So to you, those chords are in three, but they're not.
Yeah,
They are
like
not procedural.
you can't imagine it in four. Like it has to be in three. Ah, that's a very interesting observation.
Right, but when you hear it for the first time, you don't know it until later. So
No.
the rhythm of it is so coherent, but it doesn't get revealed in the first chord. It only gets translated and developed in a third in the third measure of it. Yeah.
That's cool. No, you're right. It kind of makes you think about the the perception of time that composers have. I think it's very relatable in Beethoven's very effective use of rests as well. Because to he could actually held them for he could be yum but it's not. It's just this like with the rest. So there's openness, but also the sound and
Right.
openness. Yeah.
But given that Beethoven was a big fan of dual rhythmic patterns like two or four, um, when you very first time try to unhear it, it's almost impossible, but try. When you hear those chords for the very first time, they can be in two, one, two, one, two,
Yeah.
and then and I remember hearing that symphony for the very first time. I don't know. I guess most people just wouldn't remember, but I do remember expecting it to be in two actually, and then being shocked by it being in three.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, you can imagine it like one, two, one, two, one,
And then
dun,
da da
dun,
da
dun,
dee,
dun.
da da
Yeah, yeah.
da.
And it
So you got
loses so
deep leading
much.
instrument in there.
It loses so much of its effectiveness. Yeah, you're right. I wonder what he I mean there must be I mean on the for those on the Beethoven Bonn .de website, like there's a sort of where you can find his old manuscripts, and you can find it's all on this sort of website online.
Oh, let's see if we can put that website on screen, because it's a very well known website among nerds like Chris and myself.
Yeah, and I wonder if he tried it
But
in two or in four, and then realized, nah, has to be in three. And I actually have, I was studying a early string quartet that he wrote, and I think that's exactly what he did. Initially, it was in four, and then he realized, no, I think this is going to work better in three, and he changed and sort of wrote a lot of these this of the music. And I think it's a very interesting way to think about it, because if you're a composer and you've already written everything in four, to on pieces of paper, mind you, that are valuable with ink
yeah.
that is costs money, to have to rewrite the whole thing in three, you have to have a solid reason for doing it. You have to really believe that what I wrote in four just isn't going to work, you know?
That's a huge major undertaking because the
Yeah.
scribbling a whole score takes a long time.
Yeah, yeah, scribbling it out, scratching and realizing, oh, I've got like 3 pieces of paper left before I have to go down to the street and beg my patron to buy me more manuscript paper. It's quite an ordeal.
Yep.
Truly, and oh, it's very interesting. So that's one of those questions to ask Beethoven when we meet him in the heavens. What was it like to run out of manuscript paper and realize, oh no, I really need to rewrite this whole piece altogether? Very interesting. But with that, I think like we have started to explore many interesting ideas. I think this is, and we've only reached the first 8 measures, so I can't wait to see what Larry has in store for us. And it's very cool to see him play now because he's actually a really beautiful player
Yeah.
himself. But we couldn't really see that until now.
Now everything is revealed. All is true. That's truly his voice, not AI version of it. It's truly
No.
his face, and it's truly his fingers on the piano. And if you watched the previous programs and episodes of it, and you admired the pianist behind the scenes, well, that wasn't Lung Lung. That was actually Larry Rapchak playing himself
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
piano.
Yeah, and he's a wonderful conductor. He's a wonderful speaker of music and obviously a scholar. And he's got an incredible voice for this sort of thing too. So a big thanks to our team and collaborators, especially New Media Productions, Virtual Concert Halls, Architects of Music, and Larry Rapchak, because this is a real project. It's a passion project to do something where like there are many books already written about Beethoven and his symphonies, but to distill it in a video form, I think this is really valuable. This is something that I think musicians and music lovers alike are going to just learn so much from. So a big thanks to the team and a big thanks to our sponsors as well for supporting us into making all of this happen. This is awesome. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your support throughout the season. Please suggest ways in which we could be helpful to you or to provide more content. Please comment and post questions to our hosts like ourselves. And I look forward to having you join us on this wonderful journey of Beethoven's Third Symphony.
And thank you, Chris, very much for being our host of many years and for being an inspiration for many projects and programs. It's a great pleasure to be on the show together with you and to continue to explore Beethoven, endless source of motivation and imagination.
Absolutely. And so please visit our website for more information on what we do and other auditions and competitions and programs that we are really proud of. This Beethoven Symphony is taking us a while to get through, but it's always such a pleasure. And with that, we'll see you next time for part 2, where we get to do another 8 measures of Beethoven's Third Symphony. And
No, this time it'll be 6.5.
maybe, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. See you next time
See you
for
next
part
time.
2. All right, bye for now.
Bye now.